The Triumph engine is basically very good condition, but cosmetically it needs to be cleaned up. So here I'm changing the pushrod tubes. As you can see already, the engine has been dismantled, the barrels have been painted, the crankcases have been cleaned, but the outer covers have not been polished yet. Here I'm putting a smear of silicone on the pushrod seals. I find it helps them seal at the bottom. I then clean up the expansion ring and put that round the seal to stop it expanding out when the pushrod tube is put on top. Followed by the pushrod tube, of course. With the pushrod tubes in place and the head gasket annealed, the cylinder head can now go on. Just be careful when you're pushing everything into place that everything locates properly and nothing is pinched. A lot of people seem to have problems with the pushrod seals. I find that if you match them so that they lift the head maybe 2 gasket thicknesses above the face before everything is tightened down, it pinches them to the correct pressure that they don't split and ooze out or leak. With everything in place, the cylinder head is torqued down. Now the pushrods can be inserted. It can be a bit fiddly locating them at the bottom, but just a bit of patience and turn the engine over will soon indicate if they're sitting in the right place. For some reason the camera didn't record me putting on the rocker boxes, but they're straightforward enough. And of course me lifting the engine in would have been very entertaining, but that was lost as well, I'm afraid. I find if you tip the engine backwards slightly when inserting it into the frame, it falls into place a bit easier. Then it's a simple case of putting in the front bolt and then wiggling the engine until the lower bolt is in position. The last spacer at the bottom can be a bit fiddly, but again, just wiggle the engine and it will locate. With everything in position, it's a simple case of just tightening everything up and moving on to the cases. I started with the gearbox casing as it was already taken off and gave it a good polish. Again, all that's needed really is cosmetics. With the finish restored, it's a simple case of putting on some sealer, bolting in the gearbox casing, and at this point here I'm cleaning out the polishing wax that collects in the screw holes. I find it very annoying to see the black marks on the polished casing. The timing cover was next, again purely cosmetic work. The triangular Triumph badge is faded and been polished away over the years, and one of the hardest jobs on these things I find is removing these drive rivets. I find tapping them side to side Being very careful that you don't knock the heads off them is about the only way of getting them out. Again, patience is a major thing here. If you hit them too hard, they will snap and the head will fly off. You can't drill them out, they're as hard as nails, so a bit of time here is well worth the effort. And again, with the finish restored, it's a simple case of sealing in the gasket and putting the timing cover back on. I've noticed also that the reignition is very handy. It actually uses the notch inside the camshaft to locate, so it goes back into its original position. Very handy. This just left the clutch cover to be restored. Again, polish out all the corrosion, and I actually painted in the black lettering in the centre of the Triumph with a very fine artist brush. It actually wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be. You can actually just fill in the inside of the letters, and if you do happen to go slightly over, you can wipe it off with a cloth. After the paint had sat for a while but wasn't completely gone off, I wrapped a cloth in a pad, a firm pad, and wiped across the face of the Triumph badge, and this just highlighted the letters, made it stand out quite nicely. I'm afraid the picture didn't really do it justice. Gasket sealer and replace the casing, and the job's a good one. Thanks for watching.